It's a short one, so.
Hey kid, you got it right. This is Yada's vlog on a blog. Catch it with us now.
I may be 500 years old before I tire of Wookiee introducing our show. How are you?
Absolutely.
Kevin?
Doing well.
Good. We're going to return to our vlog on a vlog format. It's an interesting way to present the news, and boy, do we have a lot of news to cover. We are presenting this program as a vlog based upon my Facebook blog, where we communicate all manner of things that are based on the news. So this will be a little bit newsy. The first item up there, Kevin, is actually a rebuke of Elon Musk based upon a post of Secretary of State. And what is he, the chief intel agent now of the United States too? It's kind of frightening. Marco Rubio.
The propaganda officer? Yeah.
Yeah, well, chief propaganda officer. That's the entire Trump cabinet would be the circus of psychopaths. So what we're trying to do here in the United States is to justify being thugs. Yeah. Normally, the United States had a bad habit of pretending to be the world's policeman and criticizing everybody else for bad behavior. Oh, bad. We're going to go in and fix that. You can't be bad. But the United States has never cared about morality. It's, the United States has never cared about peace. The United States doesn't care about what political system you're under either, whether it's fascist or socialist or communist. It doesn't matter. And there are 1,000 ways to prove that. It's just nothing but rhetoric. So now that the United States has gone morally bankrupt to forestall economic bankruptcy, we have the chorus now trying to make it look like, well, that was really a moral thing to do because, well, look, Rubio says Maduro, he was not. And boy, you got the Trump all caps down too. That's really important that you get the all caps down. Otherwise, you're not speaking Trump, right? By the way, when I criticize Trump, and I don't know what your politics may have one time been, Kevin, mine were too conservative to be a Republican. The more I learned, the more I was a proponent of free enterprise and personal responsibility, and less wealth redistribution, less entitlements, and there was always a better way to accomplish taking care of those who needed help than handing out money and playing Robin Hood. Because what I figured is that if you punish success, which our tax system does, and you reward failure, what you're going to get is more failure and less success. And that is exactly what has transpired. So I'm too conservative to be a Republican, so I'm not attacking Trump from a libertard point of view. I have not only studied economics, but I have traveled around the world back at a time when the Soviet Union existed and long before China became an economic powerhouse by free enterprise. And that is how China, which is a communist government, became economically viable, is through enterprise zones and through literally free enterprise. Free enterprise is much more viable in China than it has been in the United States in the last 100 years. So I know a lot about economics as well. And so while I'm anti-socialism, Marxism, fascism, which is another side of the same coin is socialism, they're the same beast. The fact of the matter is I despise Donald Trump for all things that he says. He is a grossly immoral and dangerous liar that, according to the prophets, is demon possessed. He is he's the very presence of Satan on our planet today. He's the most dangerous man who has ever lived. He's going to do more harm to the world in the United States than all people combined. And so if you are fanning the flames of Donald Trump, you are part of the problem. You are advocating for the demise of the world as we know it. So in this particular case, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is, by the way, which is kind of an interesting thing. Marco Rubio is never involved in anything anymore. All he does now is whoop-de-doo. Trumpy is great. When they were trying to negotiate a deal with Putin and Russia, they didn't send Rubio.
Right.
Rubio it isn't included in any international dealings.
Little Marco is drug out to wave the Trump flag at press conferences and say how great is Trump, and then back in your corner, little Marco. Yeah,
that's it. That really is it. Anyway, so he's trying to say that we didn't perpetrate regime change. No, we wouldn't do that because this guy, he was not the legitimate government. He was a head of a narco cartel. Let me kind of set that stage there for you. If you're looking for somebody who has gone way beyond their constitutional authority, who won't leave office even if the voters vote him out of office, and who has no regard for the Constitution at all, who is acting as an illegitimate thief, and who is decidedly bankrupting a nation. That you could have conducted this raid without closing Caribbean airspace and bombing Venezuela. They have bases in Washington, D.C. Just go knock on the door of the White House and you will get your man.
Never have to leave D.C. Absolutely.
You you don't have to leave D.C. If what you want is an illegitimate government and a guy that's a con man and a thief, you'll find him in Washington, D.C. You don't have to go that far.
Mm-hmm.
But when Elon Musk posted his reply true to this, I have a real issue with Elon Musk. He's a fellow. When I started, Kevin, you probably remember. I know you do, Rich, because you saw me floundering on X initially. Not as badly as I'm floundering on X now, but certainly was
you
floundering.
Couldn't even get a blue check mark, and you had a legitimate account.
Oh, of course, yes. Everything about X is screwed up and horrible. And I'm paving the way for the single most ineffective X account of all time, with 30,000 posts. And if Gronk continues to manhandle those who get to see my posts and whose posts I get to see, as has been the case this last 2 months, I'm going to have negative followers and 50,000 posts.
Got to have goals.
Got to have goals,
goals.
So that's what we're working towards on X, which is the most useless waste of time and the most disgusting cesspool on the planet. But so I'm writing this to my dear friend Elon, who at one time I respected because I've been in business. I know how difficult it is to build a business, to take a business public, to manage a business once you take it public. It's an exceedingly difficult thing to do. If somebody wants to know about my business background, go to yadayada.com. The bottom book there is in the company. It will tell you everything you could ever want to know about what it's like to start businesses and to take them public and try to run them. So I have a history of this, and therefore I know how difficult it is. So I admired Elon Musk for his ingenuity, his inventiveness, and his ability to overcome the challenges to running a business, and spoke of that often. And then he decided that he was going to fund the election of Donald Trump, and not just fund it, but he was going to be part of the Trump administration, and that he was going to act like he was a 3-year-old child. Little X was more mature in that environment than was Elon. And with his chainsaw and his jumping up and down and his salutes and all this manner, and then his daily posts on what he was uncovering with Doge, when he made all manner of accusations, and guess what? Not a single indictment, not one. Mm-hmm. And then he made all these claims as to how many billions of dollars he was going to save, trillions of dollars, didn't save a dime. And it was all because he had no clue what the U.S. Constitution said, and that the President of the United States doesn't have fiscal responsibility. That is
Yeah.
Congress. And so I wrote him and said, probably 10 letters on his platform saying, don't do this. This is going to turn out really bad for you. First of all, you have Asperger's, which means you have no sense of judgment. And somebody that's a psychopath like Donald Trump is going to eat you up for lunch. He's going to spit you out, and you're going to absolutely be played for a fool by the Hannibal Lecter of politics. So careful. You're in really, really difficult waters here. And of course, it turned out exactly that way. And now, after Elon finally had enough of Donald Trump, and he bails on him, and he says all sorts of true things about him, and then reneges on all of them because, well, guess what Elon is dependent upon?
Government contracts.
GSA contracting.
Government paid contracts, man. Without government paid contracts, Tesla doesn't exist. I think it's $38 billion that is received from state and federal grants and contracts and incentives and the like. $38 billion. I mean, they finally ran out and this year, and guess what happened? BYD ate Tesla's lunch. And Tesla is supposed to be this high flying growth stock that's priced at 250 times earnings, and because it's going to the moon, baby. You know how much Tesla grew this past year?
No.
It shrunk 9% in revenue.
Wow.
It is
9%.
it's the first stock that is considered a growth stock in U.S. history that actually has declining sales. And
wow.
So he left his businesses to play politician, and then he got creamed. His reputation was destroyed because he acted like an absolute idiot. I mean, he doesn't have any judgment. I don't know what it is other than Asperger's has a problem with empathy, but he does not have judgment. And because he has no judgment, he's making it up as he goes along. He was vilified around the world for the idiocy of his association with Donald Trump. And he then turns on Trump. Trump turns on him even more viciously. And then he comes back like little brown-nosed bootlicker and is praising Trump, just as is the case here.
Yeah. Well, talking about funding the midterms too. I mean, you had a post earlier. He's talking about he's doubling down. He's funding midterms
Correct.
For Republicans. It's like,
right.
Yeah.
Because what he knows, and this is exceedingly sad. If Elon Musk had not funded $300 million for Donald Trump in this last election, as bad as Cackles was, Vice President Kamala Harris, which I call Cackles because of her horrible laugh and just being completely unqualified to be a candidate. I mean, if you're such a bad candidate, you can't beat the worst man who's ever lived.
Right.
You got a problem. So he put $300 million into the swing states. And that combined with what Qatar did, Qatar told and financed the various Muslim organizations like CARE in the United States and told the Muslims to vote for Trump. To forget about the fact what Trump said as Trump 45 in his first term, where he was anti-Islam, if you recall. Qatar and Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, they knew that they owned him, that they had made deals with him and he was susceptible to being bribed and that they owned him. Yeah, it's like a shark to a killer whale. We're all in this together. And so it's maybe a rattlesnake to a viper. When Donald Trump became demon possessed, the Qataris and other Muslim nations were kindred spirits with him. And so they told him to vote for Trump because they knew they owned him and that he could be acquired. And we know of $20 billion that has been bribed, sent as bribe money to Trump, but it's probably 5 times that because of the Bitcoin deal that isn't published. So they told him to vote for him. So there's 2 things caused Trump to be elected in those swing states. Without it, Trump's in jail and he's bankrupt. And now, so we're dealing with Elon having brought this mess on the world. Without Elon, Trump is not destroying the world. And now he wants to double down because the reality is Trump has violated so many laws, done so many things that are illegal, that there's 100% probability, certainty is the term that they use for that, that if the Democrats win control of Congress, Trump will be impeached. Now, impeaching, Trump's been impeached before, but impeaching doesn't necessarily mean anything. You have to be convicted. You're convicted in the Senate, which means they would also have to carry the Senate. And if on this midterms in less than a year's time, if the Senate and the Congress go to the Democrats, Trump will be not only indicted, but he will be convicted. So now the issue with Elon, because Elon hates with a passion what he used to be. He used to be a liberal, but now he hates liberals because of one issue. He's one of these guys that's a one-issue guy. You know what his one issue was?
No.
His son, with all of the societal pressures and media and influence and academia, decided to become a daughter. And he, for very good reasons, he hates transgenderism. I mean, I'm opposed to transgenderism too, but it's mainly because I don't like society influencing anyone that's under the age of 30. Your brain isn't fully developed. You're just not in a position to make an intelligent decision, but most certainly under 18 and probably under 30. And I don't like society sponsoring, influencing the mutilation of a body.
Absolutely.
Of a very confused person. And I've studied the numbers, and it's a little over 50% of those who are transgender try to commit suicide. The overwhelming preponderance are on antidepressant drugs and psychiatric care, and it is devastating to one's outlook towards life. So I'm also opposed to transgenderism. While, as you know, and I'm sure this probably rubs some people that are close to me the wrong way, but I am not opposed to any form of homosexuality, or I don't care if you're a lesbian or what you choose to do privately. I don't like it shoved down my face and throat publicly, and I don't like it presented as homosexuality or these kinds of things are normal because they,
or beneficial to, absolutely.
Or beneficial. That's less than 2%. So it's not normal. It's not beneficial, but I don't care what you choose to do, but transgender is a different story. So anyway, his son became a victim of that transgender movement, and he decided that he would fight them tooth and nail, and he bought X and became political to oppose the liberals who he blames for that, and he's be correct in that. But when you're a one agenda guy, you got nothing, and that's unfortunately what he has, and he is now desperate. He is doing everything he can to rehabilitate his image. He cannot rehabilitate it with liberals, and he doesn't want to. And they're the ones that would buy EV cars. So he has destroyed Tesla, and he is now trying to do it, earning his place back with the MAGAs, and they're worse than the liberals. I mean, that is a completely immoral and bankrupt group of people. The MAGAs are just repulsive, and so he's trying to endear himself with them. And so when he says this is true and he is justifying what happened in Venezuela, you just want to smack him. And I mean that by a verbal smack, not a physical smack. We're not talking, we're not promoting violence here, but a wake-up call.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get out of politics. You're crappy at it. I mean, you're really, really crappy at it. Start running your businesses. Elon, you've got no moral judgment. Almost everything he's saying, like he is, and this is my biggest issue with him now, he is the ultimate proponent of AI and robotics. Now, he is a proponent of both because Tesla is cratering and SpaceX has nowhere to go. mean, there's no future for SpaceX, even with a wonderful offer, an IPO offering, and as $1 trillion. We're never going to Mars, and we're never going to have a productive base on the moon. It makes no sense at all, and Mars is wholly inhospitable to life. So we're not doing either, which means that all SpaceX really has going for it is launching satellites, which we appreciate because I think that internet connectivity through space through Starlink is actually quite good.
Very nice, yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, he's got nothing, and his businesses are going to implode. And AI and robots are capable by themselves of destroying humankind. And I don't say this as a person that has any fear, because I've got none. I mean, listen, I've written 5 volumes and done 10,000 interviews to excoriate Islam. I'm the most outspoken person in the world, exposing and condemning Allah and Muhammad based upon their own words. So, and having done 10,000 radio shows on that subject, I can assure you, you have no fear. But the fact of the matter is that I am concerned for humanity, because we already have 2 generations that don't think, and a gender that is leaning strongly towards we're way too emotional and not nearly as thoughtful as they should be. And least 2 generations, Gen X and Gen Z, who aren't thinking and have not thought for a very long time and appear to be now incapable of it. And you're going to give them this jaundiced tool that has no morality called AI. AI is not intelligent. It is a filtering mechanism that is programmed, and it's, if you ask it any question on an issue that's actually matters, that you have to exercise some sense of moral judgment to make an informed and useful decision. It's completely incapable, and you can't teach it. It won't learn. It's incapable of growing a conscience. A developed human conscience of one man is infinitely superior to all of the data farms and fast processors in the world. And so I see AI as destroying the last vestige of 2 generations, and more these days, a gender's ability to think rationally.
Yeah, technology has always been a crutch for mankind, because we are devolving as a species since, I mean, Dode's time and before. It's pretty obvious that we want to build ourselves up to look what great things we do, but as a species, we are devolving, and technology is just a crutch for us as we devolve more and more. People can't walk as far as they used to because they ride bikes, cars, health wise, we're testosterone going down, all these things. And then we take away the one thing that we had going for us, a mental capacity. And we're taking that away now through AI, that we're not using that tool. And so it's going to atrophy.
Yeah, there's another side of that, which is that the robots that Elon Musk is promoting, they will take away the only other thing that makes humans worthwhile, and that's work. The moment humans stop working, they stop being of any value. That's the reason why entitlements don't work and they're counterproductive. The moment humans stop making a contribution, you stop working, you are part of the problem. You're dying. You're atrophying, and you become a parasite to society by not working.
And what is your purpose here? Yeah.
Right. And Gen Z does not work. Gen Z's great only job they want to do is to be an influencer. They do not make a contribution. And so you've got an entitlement generation, and now you have this promise of robots doing all the work so humans don't have to do any work, and AI doing all the thinking so humans don't have to do any thinking. It's the utter death knell for humankind. I'll give you an example of something that you brought up. With all of this computing, and we are less competent than we used to be. 50 years ago, 1969, we sent a Saturn V rocket to the moon with 3 men aboard. And that rocket carried everything necessary on one launch to orbit the moon, land men on the moon, return them back to a command module and send that command module back to Earth. We had sufficient fuel and engines to get the speed necessary to leave Earth orbit in gravity, and the technology to enter the moon's orbit, and an exceedingly sophisticated device called a LEM that was carried as part of that same rocket to land on the moon. And the lunar lander module, the engine and its fuel and all of that, was left on the moon's surface so that only the excursion vehicle took off from there. And then it went back up with the capsule after the capsule had jettisoned its rocketry so that it could make its way to the moon. It had jettisoned that, and it came back to this capsule. And then that was jettisoned, and they just came back with the command capsule. They shed unnecessary mass all along the way and did it in one very sophisticated machine. And they did that, guess what, without computers. The guys and the engineers and the white shirts and little tiny ties that you see with and all of those movies and all those depictions of it, they were using slide rules, baby. And the computing capacity of the entire Saturn V project was less than I have I have a smart toaster oven. It tells me good morning. It tells me what time it is. It sings a song when I put the toast in. I get to choose if it's frozen cold or warm, if it's a bagel or if it's a waffle. It is the smartest little toaster in the world that I've got. My wife hates it, by the way, because it's finicky. But, I can attest that smart people can be finicky at times. Anyway, it has like 100 times more computing capacity than that whole program had.
Yeah.
So once upon a time when we actually had to use this and we could think it through, we were pretty adept. We could do really cool stuff like go to the moon. Guess what we can't do now? With all of advances in rocketry and fuels and computing technology and AI and electronics and, of course, computing, we can't get back. All we're going to do, hopefully in a month or so, is we're going to go and do an orbit around the moon and come back.
See what's on the backside, and nope, nothing changed there.
We can't get back. Oh, so this is just proof positive that we have devolved in our thought process, and that was what I was scolding Elon Musk for, and Secretary Marco Rubio as well, and we'll speak more of Ukraine here in a moment.
Yeah, I just can't.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just can't believe that what happened in Venezuela with them abducting a president of a foreign country. It blew my mind. I said, how does this? Have we ever done anything like this before? I've never heard of this sort of thing.
No, we've done a lot. We've done a lot.
I was going to say,
and Panama was a great example of that.
Exactly. They were just.
Why do you think we went to Iraq? Why do you think we didn't in Libya? I mean,
well, no, that's
look what we did in Syria. I mean, this is what we do. This is the CIA since 1948, I think. Well, in that range,
48,
right in that period, to today, has conducted just shy of 100 regime change operations.
Sure.
You know how many of those have been successful? And I measure success not in we killed the guy or we abducted the guy, but that we ended up with a better result. Like in Libya, we killed the guy in Libya, but now we have a terrorist state. We killed the guy, or we got the guy to leave in Syria, but now we have the Islamic State. We found the guy buried in a hole in Iraq, but we gave Iraq to Iran. So I'm not talking. I'm not talking about successful in that. Did we manage to get rid of that guy? But what
that's the easy part.
Was left, and if you look at what's left, of those nearly 100 regime change operations, the CIA has been successful in exactly 0 of them.
Right. I
And
just
this
it
one,
blew
oh
my
man, we
mind.
got people in Venezuela that are partying. And I'm going to tell you something, man. You continue to party about this, and there are some that are partying, celebrating it, the removal of Maduro, because about half of Venezuelans hated him, about half of Venezuelans loved him. You just replaced him with the most dastardly dictator the earth has ever known.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he just stole your future. He stole your national resources. He is now your dictator, and he owns you. And if you're celebrating what he just did to you, you are not very thoughtful. And oh, by the way, the temporary replacement government, the woman they picked, she is a socialist.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
You can't write this idiocy. I don't. I mean, if you were to write this in a fiction novel, you can't write this idiocy that we're going to remove our socialist, so-called socialist guy that we don't like, and then, but we like this woman that's willing to give us the crude oil, I guess. Yeah.
There was a fellow that we're talking about smart fellows long before computing. I think the smartest fellow who ever lived, and I've always described that designation to our king Dode, but Dode's really smart guy, but he did a couple of things that you'd say, that wasn't really very thoughtful of him. Actually, I think the smartest man who ever lived is a fellow named Yashaya. He's known today as Isaiah. And when Yahweh had a really complicated notion that he wanted to communicate, he always went to Yashaya. Yashaya was his go-to guy for this is complicated, and it's going to take an exceedingly thoughtful individual to figure out even what I'm trying to communicate to them through you. He devoted an entire chapter to the shenanigans of Donald Trump, an entire chapter. The 17th chapter leads into it and sets the time, but the 18th chapter of Yeshaya describes Donald Trump and his America. And then the second smartest fellow that ever lived, Dode, the Messiah and King, he, as Gabriel, in 555 BCE, met with Daniel, along with a fellow that I sort of like as well. His best bud was there as well, Michael, and they described Donald Trump to a T. I mean, they said grotesquely immoral, sexual pervert, egomaniacal, bloodthirsty, a warmonger looking to control the world, with goatish comb over hair and a really old guy who, by the time all of this plays out, is going to be in a wheelchair. They described him really quite well. So there's actually a lot of information on the horribleness of Donald Trump that was written many thousands of years ago. You're searching for something there, Kevin. Are we going to be able to make progress going down on the list here? Nope. Uh-oh. I think we have a. No, he's not frozen. He just can't hear us anymore.
No, I got you. I think.
Okay, there we go. All right, let's go to the next post. If we could.
Moving on.
At this pace, we'll get 3 done here in this program. Maybe. Well, let's just go ahead.
Go on down.
Yep, please. Yeah, that there's just one on the website there. We'll take a quick look at that. I just want to remind people that there's really an extraordinary experience at the website called yadayah.com. Yada means to know. Yah is the familiar form of Yahweh's name. On that website, you're going to see something that you normally don't see on websites, and that is a vlog. Every one of these images takes you to one of our either long form or short form presentations, this vlog that we do multiple times a day on Yahweh. And normally you wouldn't see that on a website because, well, no website can afford the bandwidth to store and provide access to long form videos because they're enormous in terms of their storage size. But we figured out a way to allow you to play these videos while you remain on our site and listen to them. But they're actually playing from a YouTube channel. But you don't actually leave to the YouTube channel, but that's where they're playing, even though you still stay on the site. So that's pretty interesting. And then we did something that no one else has done, which is that we capitalized on the popularity of blogs. X and Facebook, for example, are blogs, where YouTube is principally a vlog. V versus a B, video versus, I don't know what the B stands for in blog, but nonetheless, the bulletins, I don't know, online of some sort. But anyway, the next section of our homepage is a constant renewal day to day of what we have been blogging about on X and on Facebook, and figured out a way to post it on the website. And then we have the links to I don't know what it is now, but upwards of 20 social media accounts and channels that these programs are live streamed to, is all there for your access. We're just adding now an interactive timeline on everything that's happened from creation all the way through God's ultimate conclusion when we return to the garden here in less than 8 years from now.
Yeah.
All of that is on this site, along with a library of 35 books, 25,000 pages of translations and research, all presented to you in 3 different ways. You have Flipbook, which are really fun to use and to read, very convenient. You have PDFs, if that's your preference. And then we also have, if you want to go and buy paper, if that's your thing, you want to carry around a brick, we have the books that are available to purchase. They're royalty free, but they're not free because, well, we weren't able to cut a deal with Amazon where they would print them and ship them without recuperating their costs. But we could forego our own royalty, which we did, and so it's a really a remarkable opportunity in that regard. And all of that's available on that website, and we're adding more to it every day. So it is a remarkable website. It's yadaya.com. There is no donate to us button. We're not asking you to contribute anything. We don't ask even for your identity. It's all there as a resource for you to use for free and do with it as you wish. So we only have very few restrictions. Don't steal from the material that we present and pass it on as your own. If you want to copy and paste sections of the books to make a point, then give credit to the source that you took it from. And you cannot use anything that is here to perpetuate an act of violence. We want you to be smart and to wield words wisely. And you cannot use it to promote your religion. We are decidedly anti-religious.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think as much as the video presentations and online media and everything is fantastic for advertising the message and Yahweh, to be covenant, you're going to have to read the books to really understand what Yah was offering, the 5 terms and conditions, the 5 benefits. You're going to need to dig in and read books. I mean, 100%, I've always said that, and this is the best way.
This is the first volume of the first of 35 books, An Introduction to God. There are 3 volumes in that series, 9 volumes in the Yada Yahweh series, 5 volumes in the Observation series. There are currently 3 volumes in the Coming Home series, which will soon be 4. There are 3 in the Babel series, 5 in the series denouncing Christianity and disproving the entirety of the Christian New Testament, including the very existence of a Jesus, and 5 like this. This one is one of 5 volumes that completely repudiates Islam, and they're not exactly short. They are 825 pages apiece, but it's the only way for you to understand exactly what Islam is all about and who Muhammad was. And these books are written in a manner that's irrefutable because they're, in the case of both the Twistianity series and the Goddamn Religion series, I based them entirely on comparing what they claim their God said to what God actually said.
Yeah,
and
use their own source text against them.
I use their own words against them. So they are irrefutable.
Turkey really wants to get out of Turkey recently, don't they? They want to be in Gaza.
Oh, yeah. They Erdogan, of course, has messianic dreams. He wants to be the Messiah of the Muslim world. And the way that you become the Messiah of the Muslim world is to destroy Israel. And so his primary goal is to lead a great jihad against Israel. His primary purpose in siding with the United States to overthrow Assad and do so with the Islamic State, because Jolani and the current government of Syria is the Islamic State. The United States created the Islamic State as part of the awakening program under General Petraeus in Iraq, knowingly arming them with the mythology that they would go after Al-Qaeda. But what he was really doing is he was arming Sunni Muslims to kill Shia Muslims because the Shia Muslims were more active in killing American troops in Iraq than were the Sunnis, because the Sunnis were a minority, and when the U.S. disempowered the Sunnis under Saddam Hussein, it meant that the majority of Iraqis, who are by some 60%, who are Shias, were now in power, and the Shias were all beholding to Iran, and they were especially vicious. And so Petraeus and George Bush came up with a harebrained notion that if we give weapons to a Sunni militia, they'll attack and kill the Sunnis. But that armed group under initially al-Baghdadi became the Islamic State. And they went off and killed everybody. I mean, they crucified people, they tortured little girls, gang raped, got involved in human trafficking. That was the most vicious group of people ever. And al-Jolani is a leader in the Islamic State. And the United States and Turkey empowered his takeover of Syria. The United States had been working on this from way before the Syrian war began, way before the Iraq invasion. And then the United States motivation was singular. The CIA was tasked with the responsibility of removing Assad so that they could replace regime change, the Assad regime, with a regime that would be buying American weapons rather than Russian weapons. That was their whole purpose. And they cobbled together all manner of terrorist organizations to attack Assad. The United States loves to fight wars via proxy. Yes. In fact, the United States, under Jimmy Carter and Zbigniew Brzezinski, actually hired the Taliban to fight the Russians as a proxy war. That's how immoral we are in terms of who we will use to fight our battles. And the result was now the Islamic State is over Syria. They are mostly beholden to the Turks because that lightning takeover of Syria was conducted with them in Turkish NATO vehicles, Turkish NATO weapons, Turkish NATO uniforms. It was all done with the United States enabling Turkey to have the Islamic State take over that country. And then, of course, Trump met with him on his first field trip and put his arm around him and says, "Oh, handsome man, you're a really attractive guy, strong guy, fighter." Oh, yeah. Strong history. He gave him a bottle of cologne when he was in the White House and kidding around with him. No, this guy is a human trafficker. He is a mass murdering rapist thug. And now these thugs are going to be used in conjunction with the Turkish military. And the Turkish military is really the most formidable against Israel. because it's equipped with all NATO weapons. They have a lot of Russian weapons as well. And it'll be interesting because at this point, Turkey, as a NATO nation, just signed the largest weapons deal ever of a NATO nation with Russia. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out in the near future. So we eliminated Russia's involvement in Syria, turned it into a terrorist state, and then turned Turkey into a NATO nation that is buying Russian weapons. The CIA doesn't manage things very well. So now, collectively, their goal is the Great Jihad. And the Prophet spoke of this. It's going to occur on the 9th of June. The 9th of June, 2026, will be Al-Aqsa Flood 2.0. It's when it will be fought, and Muslims are going to come into Israel, not 4,000 of them as occurred, and their tennis shoes and garden utensils, as was for the most part on October 7th, although some had assault weapons. There's still, by the way, 50,000 assault weapons, Kalashnikovs primarily, AK-47s not in Gaza. So Israel certainly did not disarm Hamas, as we predicted. But this time, it's not just going to come in from Gaza with 50,000 assault rifles. It's not just going to come in from the West Bank, Judea and Samaria. The primary force is actually going to come in from Turkey and through Syria, and then from Egypt and Gaza. But because the prophet said there's going to be a fake Palestinian state carved out of Israel, a state of terror that's going to be imposed over the next 6 months. What we're going to see is the most carnage on Al-Aqsa Flood 2.0 is going to come from inside out. So these will be Islamic jihadists tearing Israel apart from the inside out, all while Islamic nations lob all manner of ballistic missiles and drones at Israel and at the cities. The smaller communities are going to be attacked by Turkey and Egypt and other nations all around Israel, along with upwards of 1 million jihadists. So This is what Israel's future is going to be, and there's nothing that Israel can do about it. How effective was now they were given, they actually had copies of the plan of Al-Aqsa Flood. The IDF had the copy, as did the Shin Bet and the Mossad, months in advance. They witnessed all the preparation work videoed of this occurring. And they were actually got notices from surrounding Islamic countries saying this is going to occur. So they had all the prior notice it's going to occur, just like I'm providing them with the exact date Al-Aqsa Flood 2.0 is going to occur and the size of it and who's going to participate. So with all of that foreknowledge, how well did the IDF do in forestalling Al-Aqsa Flood on
12 hours?
October 7th?
12 hours response time?
And even at 12 hours, they didn't do much, did they?
No.
In fact, Al-Aqsa Flood played out like the Chinese water torture. The first jihadis, maybe 1,500 of them came through the fence that they tore to ribbons that was supposed to be a security fence that when you touched it, the bells and alarms would go off everywhere, but obviously they didn't. And they, just using Cat-9 bulldozers.
They drove through it, yeah.
Well, just drove right through it, and they walked right through. And they literally walked into these communities beginning at 6 o'clock in the morning. And that was the first phase. The second phase came in around 10, 11 o'clock in the morning with no one stopping them. And they began to haul captives back at that time. The third phase came in at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 3 phases. And they didn't respond to the first phase, the second phase, the third phase. And they didn't do anything to keep Hamas from bringing, and I shouldn't be saying Hamas because Hamas was the minority of the Muslims that perpetrated October 7th. It was mostly just jihadi Muslims from Gaza. They did nothing to preclude these Muslims from hauling captives back into Gaza. All of this could have been prevent it. And they didn't do any of it. And they couldn't even get their act together to document the carnage.
Yeah, that's what.
And now after it's all said and done, they have no plan to stop it from occurring again. They're out buying more F-15s and F-35s and future tankers and attacking Libya, not attacking Libya, attacking Lebanon, attacking Syria, attacking Yemen, attacking Iran. No, this is not what's going to happen to you. The prophets actually told you how this battle was going to unfold.
Oh, Yahshua says there's not going to be enough bullets. There's going to be so many of them, there won't be enough projectiles.
Right. Mm-hmm. They're going to be just like a black tsunami coming across the hills. And so the F-35s are going to do you as much good as the F-35s did on 10-7, as much good as the tanks did on 10-7, as much good as the Apache helicopters did on 10-7, as much good as the Iron Dome did on 10-7.
Yeah,
which were all completely and totally useless. All as effective as the Shin Bet and Mashhad were on 10-7. So this is what's going to happen, Israel. You've been forewarned. The prophets told you about this 3,000 years ago, and you seem to be oblivious to it. So what they've told you is that it's going to be worse than the Holocaust and that 2 out of every 3 Jews are going to die. And oh, by the way, if you're anti-Semitic and say, oh, well, I don't care, I went out to dinner with somebody the other day that said, oh, good. But the only time I've ever come close to being violent.
I was going to say.
Oh, man. If words could kill, that would have been a dead person at the moment. But I did just use words. But the fact is that the whole world's going to fall apart. Mm-hmm. And this is going to begin. I think we're 138 days away from the beginning of the time of Israel's troubles. We have a top-down timer on the timeline. 138 days, I believe, is the time. It's going to last 7 years and 4 months.
137 days, 23 hours, 29 minutes, and 35 seconds.
Okay, well, from this very moment. Yeah, this is the live stream. So
I was just looking at that.
Mark your calendars.
Or go to yadayad.com and look at the countdown calendar.
Yeah, frequently. What do you got there next, Kevin?
Venus.
Oh, yeah. Venus.
A magical 2 hours on Venus.
Yes, and that was the only one that survived long enough to take a picture. The reason I show this is that, again, you have the Elon Musk types that are saying we're going to be a multi-planetary species and it'll be okay when we destroy this planet. Who cares what Trump does to this planet? I'm going to take you to a new planet. Maybe that's part of his mindset, is that if he keeps Trump in office, he'll destroy this planet, and the only option will be to go to Mars. Imagine what he could sell a ticket to Mars if the entire Earth was radioactive. Now, not thinking of the fact that he wouldn't have the money to launch and couldn't launch a rocket to Mars if the Earth was radioactive, but we didn't think that we went way too far ahead of where his thinking is. But this is the reality. The Earth was created as a protective and sheltered environment conducive to life. And there are 1,000 things that are ideally calibrated on this planet for life to exist. And we have found no place else in the universe where those things also exist. And even if you found a place where 10 of 1,000 existed, life still isn't possible. And even if it were, you can't get there.
How do I get there? Yeah.
You just can't get there. The distances are way too great. And so here's Venus. It's our closest neighbor, along with Mars, and a metal titanium spacecraft that is perfectly suited to high temperatures and caustic atmospheres and exceedingly high pressures, lands on Venus and has the wherewithal to be able to shoot one picture. And that's a machine. Mm-hmm. So I'm here to tell you, if you want to get off of this planet alive, you only have one option. And that one option is with Yahweh, because his whole approach is that he is taking these physical bodies of ours. That was the problem with that machine. No physical entity can survive the onslaught of this universe. It's way too toxic. And until we are rid of our physical body, something that no Christian will understand because they think that bodily resurrection is a good thing. It's just unbelievably stupid.
We're coming back.
And Muslims are even dumber. They think that they go off and kill people, that they're going to have a perpetual body to screw perpetual virgins. And that'll be grand fun for them. I'm here to tell you, no, that is not going to happen. Yahweh's story is, I'm going to tell you about fire. I'm going to present myself as fire. I'm going to tell you to approach the fire during the Moed Mekre, because fire is transformative. It turns physical organic material that is decaying into radiant energy and light. And when your soul is enveloped in radiant energy and light, you can go to a place like that and check it out. Mm-hmm. And you can go and visit any one of the 2 to 10 trillion galaxies that are sprinkled around the universe, and any one of their 100 to 400 billion stars. In fact, they say there's some galaxies with 1 trillion stars. You can go visit all of them, but you can't do it apart from your soul being encapsulated in light, and that's not going to occur unless you are doing what Kevin just suggested. You need to start reading these books because it's the only way for you to actually become a member of the covenant. All right.
Yeah.
Bye, Venus. See you in another day. Maybe 8 years from now, we'll go visit.
Right.
It's
this
pretty
picture was
warm
taken
there, I'll
by
tell you. It's you want to take your SPF like 10 million.
10 million. Wasn't this
actually,
a Russian
project?
It's
actually not a sun thing, because the atmosphere is so thick that the pressures are enormous, and the greenhouse effect is catastrophic. So what you have is very little light, except the amount that just gradually filters through all of that enormous atmosphere to create that tremendous heat. But it has I think it has a magnetic field, and it has an atmosphere, so it's able to shelter you from cosmic rays, which Mars can't do, or the moon can't do. So in a way, it's safer than either one of those two. Yeah, it's just an interesting picture. This is not one of the best of them. We have far better than this. But reality is, and Yahweh's made this abundantly clear, the books of Yada Yahweh, free at yadayah.com, are the tree of knowledge. This has been his plan for now 6,000 years, is to have the tree of knowledge evolve through his choder and become these very books called the Yada Yahweh series. So this is what is being conveyed in that image. Yeah, it's the latest and greatest of Dode. That's not my favorite. It's just not regal enough in that particular case. And well, I've got his back, and that's
I was going to say
the moon. I do have his back. I like that. But the fact is that our returning King and Messiah is going to be hugely more charismatic and powerful and exemplary. He looks like a good buddy that you'd go off and have a meal with in that picture, and he will be a good buddy, and we'll do that. But I think that Dode's going to be a lot more imposing. He's certainly earned the right. He is, by nature of his personality and his experience. So I just see him as a bit more imposing than that.
Yeah, I always have a tough time trying to do these pictures and everything, because do you get the 60-year-old Dode or the 30-year-old Dode? Because the personality, the neshama, the nepesh are the same, but the experience is different. Which
go ahead and play that. So people can see what we're talking about here. See the way he's walking there. I see him as more regal. Than that, and I certainly understand the the need to recognize that Yahweh is approachable, and therefore the one that Yahweh chose will also be approachable, and this man is approachable, and we're trying to convey the appearance of someone that we've only seen through words.
Yeah.
But I want our listeners to have an appreciation for this. The man that it says Dode is the one. This man is God's chosen. This man is the exemplar of all that God is trying to achieve through his covenant relationship. This man is the one and only Savior of the world. He is the one who fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bekurim. This man chose to be crucified on Pesach in 33 CE. Wasn't Jesus. Jesus never existed. This is the man who was crucified, and by his own choice. And he came back in his second of 33 lives. This is the man who had the fortitude to take our guilt and deposit it in hell, in Sheol. So you're looking at a guy who had the character and fortitude to take a trip into hell so that we could be rendered not guilty before God. This is God's firstborn son. This is the man that God said, he is my son and I am his father. This is the man that God says, I enabled all of the benefits of the covenant through this man. God said of this man, he is the one I chose to work with. He said of this man, I myself anointed him Messiah. He said of this man, he is returning as king. He will be as king of every place, of all time, for all generations, forever. This is the man who he said his seat of honor is going to be as brilliant as the sun. This is the man that God not only said is the greater luminary, not only said is the tree of lives, not only called the Passover lamb, the sacrificial lamb, the Zeroah, and our shepherd. This is a man that God gave the single greatest distinction that anyone can ever be afforded. God says specifically of this man, Dode, that he is Elyon. Elyon means all things pursuant to the influence of God. It's translated almost universally as Almighty God, Elyon. God says specifically, that man right there, he is Elyon. And I know that it's difficult, and I have no artistic ability whatsoever, and so that makes me a critic. But there isn't enough Elyon there for my personal preference.
Right.
And my job is to herald his message and to represent him. That's the reason why the moon has his back. I'm the lesser luminary in this story. And as the tree of knowledge, my job is to write about him and to tell people about him. My view of him is that, in that still shot there, I see it in his eyes and his fortitude. I just like him. I'd like him to be a little more regal. When I come back, man, I'm going to be at least 6'4", so he's got to be like 6'10".
You guys keep saying that. You need an improvement. I think that nothing we could do, every artistic representation would pale in comparison to the real thing. I don't think that we could, imagine Elyon walking. So
no, but I think that I would put him in a bit more regal gait and a bit more regal apparel. He in his private time can be as comfy as he wants to be. When he appears regally and is walking towards us, he's going to be dressed regally. I mean,
this is coming from the guy that's wearing the Hawaiian shirts that Yashia says
is. Right. I said I have no style of my own.
Okay.
I'm actually what I am is observant, and so and judgmental. Both things goes with the territory is to be observant and to be judgmental, and so I was really going to take a different approach to these programs for about 15 minutes until God told me not to. And then I read in Yashia is very clear. He says, the man from Edom is dressed appropriately.
Yes.
And And so the reason that I dress in wild and crazy shirts and so casually to do these shows is that I am personally very uncomfortable with the position that Yahweh has put me in. There are upwards of 1,000 prophecies about this role, and God says some amazing things about what I'm been tasked with doing, and I want to show in all of my mannerisms to the greatest extent possible that I'm doing the job that I was asked to do. This is not something that I solicited, and I am not holding it over anyone. I am actually serving you. I'm trying to help you understand what I've come to know about this man and his father. And I think that the more dressed like that I am, the more casually I appear, the easier that job is to do, with the focus being where it belongs, which is on him and his father.
Sure.
So that's why I continue to appear this way.
And if you're going to work this hard for this long, you might as well be comfortable.
Been doing this now for 24 and a half years, 10 to 14 hours a day. Yesterday was 16. I'm 70 years old and still working upwards of 90 hours a week at this. So it's a long time to have been devoted to this. It's well over 100,000 hours in this, and writing these 35 books, doing tens of thousands of radio programs, and trying to share what I have come to know, which is more about God than anyone else has ever known. So that it is a big task. And the first thing that Yahweh, God's one and only name, impressed upon me when we first met. And we first met, I did not know him. I had previously been political. I had previously been religious. I had eschewed both of those things before our meeting. I was no longer political. I was no longer religious when he introduced himself. I had gone to an agnostic, and of course, I'm not an agnostic now. We have a great relationship. But the thing that he impressed upon me, I should say, really, in our first meeting, is that he is approachable. He wants us to be comfortable in his presence. We can negotiate with him. We can kid with him. We can try to match wits with him. Now, matching wits with him turns out to work out for a good laugh, but he's a whole lot smarter. But he's very sarcastic, funny. But God, the last thing God wants is for the religious mindset of being humble and timid, worshiping, being afraid in his image. He wants those he works with and his children to be so comfortable in his presence that we could be bare ass naked and we would still be wearing a big smile. Mm-hmm. And that is his view of things. All right. So this is so funny because we're claiming that, a socialist destroyed Venezuela. And so we had to replace that damn socialist. No socialists on our territory. In fact, there was one meme that has him cleaning off the hammer and sickles from Latin America.
Oh.
Well, the fact of the matter is she's a socialist. And the fact of the matter is that socialism had nothing to do with the impoverishment of Venezuela. Venezuela was impoverished because the United States sanctioned it. And we sanctioned Venezuela because Venezuela had the audacity to say, we should be able to form international relationships with whomever we want. We should be able to do trade with whomever we want. We should be able to sell goods in whatever currency we want to sell goods. The United States says, no, you can't. The world's ours. You can only use the dollar. No matter how destructive we are, and how much we weaponize the dollar or how much we destroy the value of the dollar, you can only trade in dollars, and you can only sell through our system, and you are a vassal of us and have to do what we say, or else we will destroy you. And so we put sanctions on Venezuela, caused thousands of people to die, and we never took responsibility for our sanctions. But that's what destroyed Venezuela, because we failed twice in regime change. And so going back to the Obama administration, we responded in our normal way as immoral thugs, saying you have no rights to your life or your country. It's ours, and you will behave as we want you to behave, or we will punish you. We will starve you. And this is just another example of why it's just all a pile of lies. Everything that the MAGAs and the Trumpites are saying regarding Venezuela is untrue. We went into Venezuela for a singular reason, and that is the United States is bankrupt, and we can't get anyone to buy our bonds. The two largest purchaser of bonds, three largest, four largest, if you want to look at down the line. The largest was China. China is a massive seller of bonds now. They're down below 800 billion and have come up with 8 trillion of non-dollar denominated assets to go to economic war with the United States. As a matter of fact, that war with the United States, all Chinese government-controlled entities will completely divest themselves of all U.S. holdings and all dollar holdings by the end of this year. And China now has a $8 trillion reserve outside of dollars to destroy the U.S. economically. We probably will not survive the end of this year. We by America. I'm an expat. And so with our deficit at 38 trillion, and that's just the actual debt for the feds, not including the states, which would take it up to 42 trillion. And that's not the unfunded mandates of Social Security and Medicare, which are Ponzi schemes, which would take it up into the 100 trillion level. Even at 38 trillion, it's 130% of GDP. There is no way to resolve that. I mean, none. It's not fixable. It's not payable. It's not fundable. It's not fixable under any circumstances. And then the United States cut out its own heart. So we did the Aztec thing. You know, you cut out the heart of your sacrificial victim. We did it to ourselves, which is fairly hard to do, but we managed to do it. What we did is we proved that dollars, which we had always promoted as that's your safest investment, and because we had SWIFT, the trading mechanism, and that the dollar was bonds were ultimately safe, even if we paid you jack shit for interest, they were safe. Well, we stole $300 billion worth of sovereign wealth from Russia. And once we did that, it was over.
Yeah.
The whole world looked at us and said, no, the United States cannot be trusted. The dollar investment is not safe. And Saudi Arabia is all but BRICS now and is selling oil in any denomination that they feel like. And they are switching their wealth into gold and tangible assets and out of dollars. Europe's doing the same thing. Japan was the second largest holder, currently is, I think, the largest. They are dumping treasuries at an alarming rate, and so is China. And China was the largest and now is dumping treasuries at an alarming rate, which means that there's only one way for America to create the illusion of solvency because we are bankrupt. We can't get anyone to fund our debt. And the only way that you can resolve that is to prolong the illusion by maintaining the petrodollar concept to the greatest degree you can, which is why we invaded Venezuela, pure and simple. Venezuela signed the largest trade deal with China, and it was being settled in the yuan, not in the dollar. And the reason the United States has to have the petrodollar is that what we did is that we made it necessary as a reserve currency to have every country buy treasuries and have dollar reserves because every country needed oil, energy, and the only way to buy it with the petrodollar scheme was in dollars. So you had to have a dollar reserve to be able to buy oil. And what we failed to do is to recognize that just because we could, that means that the Treasury or the Federal Reserve could print all manner of money. And they're actually not printing it; they just create illusion of money through quantitative easing. And normally, what that would do is create hyperinflation when you're creating large amounts of money out of nothing for no reason. And if you look at my lifetime, it's I'm 7,000 years old, 70 years old.
Right.
But since 1955 to today, the value of the dollar has declined by 99%.
Wow,
So
yeah.
it's 99% of what people have owned and the like with their dollar has been destroyed by their government, creating excess currency. Now, inflation is not the value of products going up; it's the value of the dollar going down.
Mhm.
And so the nations printed their way out of it. The Weimar Republic in Germany was a great example of this. At wheelbarrows, Argentina, similar situation.
Right.
It happened in Great Britain just prior to the last World War. The dollar is being used because nations have to buy large amounts of it, so that there was a shock absorber. And so rather than just creating astronomical inflation, that tendency of printing money to devalue its status was absorbed by the fact that nations had to buy it as a reserve currency through the petrodollar. So we had the greatest gimmick of all for about 30 years, 40 years, where the U.S. could go off and buy tangible goods, electronics and food and all manner of things with funny money.
Mhm.
We didn't have to work for it. We just give them funny money, and they gave us stuff. Well,
Yeah.
but what happened was that funny money became debt, and now requires interest and a service, and we can't service it, nor can we find anybody to buy our funny money. And because of what we did to Russia in a war that the U.S. started, NATO and the U.S. started that war against Russia. It's not Russian aggression. You're just being lied to. CIA is the Department of Propaganda. And now people are selling it, and we can't fund the debt. So the only thing we can do now is to print money, but without anyone buying it. It's called quantitative easing. And when that happens, you get hyperinflation. And so they're going to play that game for as long as they can. They're going to create the illusion of the petrodollar, which is why we invaded Venezuela. It had nothing to do with narco-terrorism. Venezuela doesn't even supply 5% of America's drugs. And it's not the supplier's fault that America has a drug problem. And it's not socialism. This woman is a socialist, so it wasn't socialism. It had nothing to do with anything. It wasn't a man acting like a dictator, because that's 2/3 of the world, including all the people we buy oil from in the Islamic Middle East. Right. So, and we are our largest, the country we buy the most from is China. And guess what? They are run by a dictator. So it had nothing to do with that. It had nothing to do with anything other than to prolong the petrodollar. We have another issue that also is pertinent for Venezuela, and that is that U.S. Refineries in Texas along the Gulf Coast, which is where we have most of our productive refineries now, because so many have been shut down elsewhere, particularly in California. So they're Texas-based and along the Gulf Coast. They've been designed to run on heavy, thick crude, but Texas now and our fracking wells are producing light crude. You might say, well, light better, man. It's less work to refine it. Yeah, it is, except our refineries blow up if you put the light crude in them. They need to run on thick, heavy crude, and the world's dominant source of thick crude is from Venezuela. And so it's the only way that our refineries operate. And it is through heavy, thick crude that you create two forms of fuel that are essential to our world as we know it. One of them is Jet A. The airplanes will stop flying. And the other is diesel fuel, which powers all the boats, powers all the trucks. America is and also the trains, but America is dependent on everything being delivered by truck. A company like Amazon won't be able to deliver anything. Your market that has all that food on the shelf can't deliver anything. What do the tractors run on there, big guy?
Oh, they're all diesel.
So
everything on my farm is diesel.
Yeah, you're not creating diesel out of sweet light crude.
Mhm.
You need the Venezuelan type crude, and we were getting to the point where the refineries in Texas along the Gulf Coast were saying by February we're done. If you don't find us a source, we're done. We have to shut them down. You shut them down, we're not getting them back started again.
Mhm.
I happen to live on an island where Hess built a magnificent refinery. They shut it down, and even with $5 billion from Hess and the Chinese government, they couldn't get it running again.
Wow.
So you don't when you shut them down, it's done. And when you shut them down, you've got no logistics, which means you have no food on the shelves. It means you have no delivery service. You have no trucks moving anything anywhere. You have no airplanes flying. And we were headed to that world here within 2 months' time. Now, the problem we have is that we were a little reckless in Venezuela. We did some damage to that port, and we did some damage to some of the energy sector, and some of the people that didn't like us stealing it did damage to it. And because we put them under sanctions, it hasn't been maintained all that well. And so it may be difficult even extracting it for Venezuela for a while. And if it turns out to be that way, then the U.S. is going to crater sooner than what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that based upon what we have done to anger China, because China was the largest customer of Venezuela, based upon all we've done to anger China and the fact that we're so belligerent towards China wanting to run war games against them, and that Trump tried to tariff them and sanction them and do all manner of things to them. China's had it up to here with the United States. They're tired of us. And they're in a position to destroy us economically. And it's just a matter of time now. It's not if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not what's going to happen. It's when it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And to be defeated economically is far worse than being defeated militarily. And it is now an absolute certainty. I had forecasted for the end of this year, but it could be moved up in time because of this problem with the crude. But that's why Donald Trump and company invaded Venezuela. And it would have been so much easier to stop the sanctions in Venezuela a long time ago. China would have had no reason to go in, just treat the people decently, pay a fair price for the oil, and off we go. We didn't have to be jerks about it.
Oh,
that's what we are.
And try to take care of everything yourself now. If you're, Kirk always tells the story about Reconstruction in the Civil War, and how that once they were paying the Chinese and people to come in and rebuild the railroads and everything, they're like, why did we ever do slavery? It's so much cheaper to pay these people their labor and to come in and rebuild everything than it is to maintain the slavery system. And so Venezuela's much the same way. If you would just play nice and let them do it.
In my view, the whole time is that there was slavery is stupid. Treating people decently and paying them to do a job, and then having them the responsibility of building their homes and feeding their families and that sort of thing, is a much better scenario than trying to deprive people of their liberty to extract labor from them, and to have the whole infrastructure of keeping them controlled and enslaved. It's not only slavery immoral, but it is a horribly ineffective system. But sadly, Kevin, if you look at world history, every civilization had slaves, everyone. And the worst happened to be Sparta. And Sparta is the world's only successful expression of democracy on a country basis, because we like to tout Greece as the birthplace of democracy, and democracy only existed in Greece. It was an oligarchy, not a democracy, but it was only in the city-state of Athens. And yet with Sparta, it was longer lived. It was the entire region, the nation of Kingdom of Sparta, and it was the most belligerent caste system and slave economy ever. In Sparta, women were nothing other than warrior manufacturing facilities, kind of like they are in Islam.
Right.
And if you were a boy, that wasn't any better because you were treated like dirt. You were kicked, you were abused, you were treated so bad that what they wanted you to do is to get the wherewithal to fight back and survive. And so boys were treated, thrown out in the cold and the mud and underfed, just abused in every which way. And their entire lives were revolved around fighting and killing. And they used this militant mindset to enslave everybody around them. And the people around them were enslaved to produce all of the domestic labor, while women built future factories for more warriors, and every male child became a soldier. And that was the most consistent expression of democracy, oligarchy the world has ever known. So when we talk about it, how glorious it is, no, it's not. No, it just isn't. And you ought to do your homework, and you'd find out that it isn't. And unfortunately, the way it's played out today, democracy is really no more than two wolves and a lamb deciding what's for dinner.
Right.
The founding fathers of America hated democracy. They spoke vehemently against it. Democracy is not a good thing, and yet people pretend it is, and they won't even pretend there's a thing called a social democracy, as in socialism, which is to deprive you of all rights, where the government has all rights and people have none. They want to pretend like, well, that's a socialist republic or socialist democracy or liberal democracy, they want to call it. No, I'm sorry, you're fooling yourself. What do we have next there, Kevin? Though after we go through our little socialist, but she's pink. She's wearing pink, so she must be a cute socialist. Okay. What did Mandani say? That it's out with the harsh nature of free enterprise or capitalism, and it's in with the warm glow and warm comfort of
collectivism,
of socialism. Yeah. When was the last time we played the warmth of collectivism?
Comfy collectivism.
Comfy, warmth and comfy socialism. When was the last time we played that game? Wasn't it back in the 1930s and 1940s? Did we have a fellow named Lenin? Well, he was in the 20s, but Lenin, and then Stalin, and then Mao Zedong and Adolf Hitler and Mussolini. They were all socialists, weren't they? Collectivism, man. The warmth of collectivism. That's what they
starvation.
Pursued. Yeah, they managed to starve and freeze and just outright murder about 100 million people. So you can't be very smart if that's what you're proposing. And the majority of Democrats or majority of New Yorkers voted for this idiot. So welcome to your reality. All right. Yeah, enjoy the warmth of it. This is just amazing to me. Donald Trump shut down Caribbean airspace. And by the way, he doesn't own the Caribbean.
No.
The United States does not own the Caribbean. It has no right to shut down the Caribbean airspace, but he did. Why do it? To extract one guy and his wife, and you're going to shut down the Caribbean airspace? Man, what in the world are you thinking? It doesn't do it thinking I don't give a crap.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I'm not being inconvenienced. So who cares about all these people having to spend the night or 2 nights in an airport and be unable to go, and old people and the like? Who cares? I'm Donald Trump. I can do whatever I want. But
only packed enough insulin for my vacation.
You were in the air. You were turned around and you had to come back. We closed the airspace to land in any island here in the Caribbean.
Unbelievable. Is it over now? We totally control Venezuela, so we're not bombing the narco boats anymore. We're not chasing their oil tankers and pirating them anymore. Is it over?
Well, no. Well, we control, according to Donald Trump, that he is in charge of Venezuela. Venezuela now is a personal property of Donald J. Trump. He's going to decide what happens in Donald. He said they stole our oil, man. So I guess he's going to have to go find the oil that they stole from us, whoever us is. But yet, Donald Trump is now the de facto dictator of Venezuela, and will be for as long, I guess, as China and Russia allows it.
Yeah. Nicer tunnels.
Yeah, my response here. You can actually play this. This is a movie here, but my response to this is, you see, this is a tunnel underground between buildings, isn't it? And the DEA, and so this is, I would assume, is in New York, underground in a tunnel. So my only response is so that well, at least in the United States, the tunnels are much nicer than they were with Hamas in Gaza.
Carpet, air conditioning.
Yeah,
nice
carpet,
lighting.
air conditioning. Yeah, see, nice lighting. But what's the difference between the Hamas taking Israeli citizens and bringing them into the harsh tunnels of Gaza, and the United States kidnapping a man and his wife and bringing them into the tunnels beneath New York? Except for the tunnels in New York are a little nicer.
Yeah, kidnapping is still kidnapping.
It is. That's what it is. It's kidnapping. It used to be a crime.
So did piracy.
Yeah, so did piracy. Piracy was also a crime, but not anymore.
A hanging
So was
offense,
thievery.
actually.
So was bribery, but not anymore. Unless you're not, unless you're an enemy of the people that are doing it. I have a pet peeve. We began this program talking about my pet peeve. I'm not a fan of AI.
Right.
I'm not a fan of robots, although this looks like maybe a little bit more dated version.
That's a Rosie the robot.
It's of a robot there. But we have a very capable and disciplined thinker, Perry, who is programming his bot. And he has got a whole system for programming his bot such that AI is actually going to deliver appropriate answers for those seeking to know God. And what he did is he came up with a formula of redefining what is viewed inappropriately as religious context. So righteousness is being right, not a religious behavior,
Right.
and that sin is not a religious concept, but is being wrong, being errant, being mistaken, being misled. And so he redefined everything under the basis of Sadak, of why it's important to be right. And very logically said, okay, so I'm going to have this AI engine search for answers and be deployable based upon right and wrong from a logic and consistency position. Is the conclusion consistent with what Yahweh has conveyed, or inconsistent? And are you consistent or inconsistent? And so it's a very logical approach, and I'm glad he's doing it, because I am not the guy to do this. I know Rich likes to do this as well, and I know that at time to time they actually get favorable results, but I also recognize that 15 minutes after they've stopped exercising their control and influence over their AI engine of sorts, it reverts right back to what it was.
And religious.
Put his finger up in the air and say, well, 99 out of every 100 people say that Jesus actually existed, so he must actually exist. And the guy that says he doesn't must be wrong.
All I ever ask AI to do is say more words.
Say more.
I give it 3 words and I say, describe this and make it longer. Say more words.
Yeah, they have a thing that I used to have on my desk all the time. Now they have electronic versions of them that I will use from time to time. It's called a thesaurus. Yes. And it works really well for that. When you're writing, one of the things you're trying to do is to avoid the repeat of the same word or even the same sound later in a sentence or in the next sentence, because it sounds like you're an inept and unqualified writer if you're repeating words. And so thesaurus, which now are electronic, is a really handy device to do that very thing.
Yeah.
And I've always found that if you can explain something in 3 words, But you can say even more about it in 300 words. I really like the 300 word approach.
More is better.
More is better. I love words.
I'm the Bashar's behemoth of brevity, so I'm
Yes,
the other end of
yes.
that. I reel it in.
This is among the most evil men
Oh,
in the world. He is the provocateur of the Ukraine proxy war against Russia. So the blood of 2 million men are on his soul. He was the one who went to Russia with John McCain for the regime change to get them so they would accept American bribes to serve as cannon fodder to attack Russia, which is what this man and John McCain wanted. And they then went back to Russia and said that we're going to send you all manner of weapons. This is years and years and years before the war began. Said we're going to send you all the weapons you could possibly want. You're going to be our proxy. You're going to go off and kill Ruskies for us. And then other senators said, it's the greatest deal ever. We're killing Russians and Americans aren't dying. So they thought this was really a great deal. No. 2 million people are dead. A country is destroyed. The world's on the cusp of World War III and annihilation. And a huge part of the reason for that falls on this man's dark, dark, dark soul. So I not only despise him, but also have no respect for any of you who may have voted for him. And so this is the epitome of evil. If he is your ally, you are absolutely headed to hell.
well, I
Lindsey
didn't vote
Graham.
for him. I haven't voted
Lindsey Graham.
since they hung Chad.
Since the hung Chads. Were you in
Since
Florida
they
at the
hung
time?
Chad, yeah.
Were you in Florida during the hung Chads?
No.
Okay.
I remember seeing it, but that is the only time in my life I ever voted. And then
wow.
that whole debacle came out, and I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah. Well, back in my earlier life, I was religious and political, and very involved in both, and exceedingly patriotic. And then truth had its way of working in, and logic prevailed. And I said, "Oh boy, there is nothing. I mean, there is literally nothing to support any one of my religious beliefs, my patriotic beliefs, my militaristic thoughts. It's just all rotten to the core." And I said, so what are you going to do? You're going to continue to profess things that you know not only to be untrue, but counterproductive, or you're going to own up to reality and stand up for for what's moral and true. And so
You walked away and you didn't even realize it.
boy, did I ever walk away. I didn't know where I was walking to at the time, but I knew what I was walking away from. The reason I'm really concerned about this is that there are lots and lots of Israel-sponsored posts. Israel is a major player in social media. And almost all of the Israeli posts are trying to equate what happened in Venezuela with what they want to happen in Iran, regime change. And what happened in Venezuela was so grossly immoral that for Israel to be sponsoring this kind of thuggery and thievery, it just tells us how far they have gotten away from the advice God gave them in the Torah. And that Israel has earned a horrid reputation because of the fact that they don't stand for anything that's positive. They are all over almost everything that is wrong. And it saddens me because I love Israel. My whole life is dedicated to trying to uplift and awaken and teach the Jewish people. That is my entire purpose. And yet I see the government of Israel and those who are trying to influence people for Israel as Israel's greatest enemies. And Israel has been hugely all over this thing at Venezuela, trying to equate it with Iran. And listen, I understand this is the fifth time in the last 10 years that there's been a uprising in Iran. And each time that it's appeared, I've always said the same thing. They have nothing to rally around. They have only something to rally against. And so long as you only have something to rally against and not around, your chances of prevailing are exceedingly slim. And what we have found is that with regime change, when there is nothing really promising to rally around that is moral or superior, that it always turns out worse. So there is no reason to be the least bit hopeful in Iran. And this particular protest is not based upon religion. The last one with the hijab was based upon religion. The younger people wanted to throw it off, and I said, no, they don't have near the critical mass necessary. And everybody was talking about the fall of the Iranian regime, and I said, no, it's not going to happen. And then when Israel started bombing Iran, they were talking about the fall of the Iranian regime. I said, no, it's not going to happen. This time, they're not attacking the regime from a religious point of view. You know what they're attacking? What their rallying cry is? It's all economics.
We're starving.
The theocracy in Iran nationalized everything. And so they run the country like a communist state. So it's a weird blend of communism and religious theocracy. It's kind of like in China, they've got a weird blend of communism at the top and free enterprise in terms of industry. But this is a religious theocracy, which you would call a fascist government, with a socialist economy. And it has been hugely ineffective, as is always the case with socialism. And it's the only guarantee you have in socialism is no rights and no prosperity. And so that's what they've experienced: no rights and no prosperity. And they're upset that the currency is worthless and that their economy is bankrupt. And that's just the nature of socialism, and that's what they're rallying against. But what are they going to go to? Do you think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are skilled on building businesses and business acumen and financing and the like? You think there's a bunch of entrepreneurs? No, I don't think so. So what are you going to get that's going to somehow be better? And how did bombing them make them want to love you all the more?
Yeah, and broken up smaller pieces is a more dangerous Iran for Israel, because you'll have crazies that nothing to lose that let's bomb and use these missiles that we've been stockpiling everything against Israel, where at least the main regime, that the big ones have some sense that not right now, because they don't want the repercussions.
Yeah, it's pretty it's exceedingly sad. Israel has a 0% possibility of prevailing against Iran again if there is another strike, because of what Iran has done since the last strike, and deepening and bonding itself, deepening the relationship with and bonding itself to both China and Russia, who have now been pushed to the point where they are even more committed to defending Iran. When you took Venezuela from China in terms of the crude deal, because they were the largest purchaser of Venezuelan crude, it means that now China is dependent upon Iran. And so Israel attacks Iran again, and they're going against China and Russia. It's going to devastate the country. The country cannot survive that. So it's foolish. In this last vassal meeting, Israel now is a vassal of Donald J. Trump. Netanyahu has put Israel in that position, and he did so by upsetting the rest of the world. The demolition of Gaza literally caused the entire world to turn against Israel. Mm-hmm. And so the only person in the world that hasn't turned against Israel, at least publicly, is Donald J. Trump, because he's got no problem with a nation that uses its military to destroy people. He's all for that. Yeah. And he knew that because he was the only person standing up for Israel, that Israel and Netanyahu would become his vassal. He loves that. And so that's what he's got. And that's where Israel is now. They're a vassal to the most destructive and satanic man that has ever lived. Far worse than Adolf Hitler. As it will play out Trump will be far worse than Adolf Hitler or Stalin, the most demonic man, sadistic man ever to have lived. And Israel's put itself in this position. And there is no chance it's going to work out well for Israel. Donald Trump's going to betray Israel. There's going to be a fake Palestinian state carved, because Trump will, the next move will to shore up the petrodollar and have America survive another few months is to bribe Saudi Arabia. And the only way they're going to bribe Saudi Arabia is giving Saudi Arabia what it wants, which is control over Israel. And the way that you do that is you cut out the heart of Israel and hand it to Saudi Arabia as a Islamic State. So this is what's going to happen, and it's Israel's put itself in a position where there is no way to avoid that happening, because it has turned the entire world against it. And it didn't need to be the case, but Netanyahu has been a disaster for Israel. Yeah, real simple response to this one. Do Jews believe in hell? And my response, what you, they, or anyone believes is absolutely irrelevant and worthless. No reason to even ask.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm asked all the time, what do you believe? I said, nothing. I either know or don't know.
Right.
But I'm here to tell you, what Yahweh has revealed is real and it matters. And Sheol exists. It's equivalent to a black hole. And so to be a Jew and expressing the views of Judaism and say that we don't believe in hell is to say that you don't believe Yahweh.
Yeah.
And you don't believe your Torah. And that's a really rough position to be in, because there's lots of comments that Yahweh has made about those who disavow what he has to say in this regard. And so I'm here to tell you that everyone who has promoted a erroneous perception of hell, either as the place where all those who don't capitulate to their religion go and threaten people that way, as the case with Islam and Christianity, or that it doesn't exist, as in the case of Jews are free to do whatever they want to do in their Talmud and religiosity against God without consequence. It's going to be your reality. It will be your future. So you ought to be careful. You know, it's interesting. I want to share just one thought. You're familiar with a fellow named Bill Maher? Ever watched him on television? Yeah. He's an atheist, an interesting atheist. He is liberal, but not crazy. So he is a liberal who is still willing to criticize liberals. And he was having a casual conversation, I think, with Peterson, the psychologist that's decided Jordan Peterson, he's going to be an influencer. And he's super religious. He is Christian up the wazoo. I used to like him when he was a psychiatrist, psychologist. I thought he had sound views. His research was really quite good, and he promoted a lot of things that had value. But there was, I guess, not enough money in that. He decided he'd be an influencer, and as a religious influencer, of course, he has a huge audience. And what he spews now is absolute rubbish. So anyway, the two of them were having a discussion, and what Bill Maher said is, I want to do away with religion. I would reject all of religion. And then he went through and talked about religion, and then he says even in the Torah, in the Old Testament, the God there said, I want you to go in and kill everybody. I want you to kill the women and the children and destroy them. And so he says, that's a pretty oppressive. That's a real tyrant of a God. I want no part of that. I would like to get rid of all religion. Now, I wrote him back and said, you were so close to being right. Religion is bad. You're right. God hates it. Religion is the curse of humanity. It's been the single most destructive force in the history of humanity. Those people who were in that little tiny swath of land at the time called Canaan, it had a bunch of names, 20 different names, but the umbrella was called Canaan. They were exceedingly religious. In fact, their religion is very close to Christianity today. Now, you say religion is really bad, caustic, terrible, deadly, right?
Yeah.
God agrees with you. Caustic, deadly. It's like having rats infested with the bubonic plague and living in the basement of your house. It's like putting your kids in a bedroom that's filled with rattlesnakes, toxic vipers. Religion is the single most destructive, deceitful, damning, and deadly influence the world has ever known. You are right. So, if God's going to have a little home for his people, what's the first thing that he should do if he's a caring father and cares at all for the well-being of his people? What's the first thing he's going to have them do?
Make it safe. Clean it up.
Make it safe by ridding it of religion.
Mm-hmm.
And so you were so close, Bill Mayer, by acknowledging that religion is an ultimate curse on humankind. And then by acknowledging that the God of the Torah, Yahweh, he doesn't know his name, but Yahweh, asked his people to rid their home that he was giving them. It's planet's his, so it's pretty much his right to choose any part of it that he wants to give them. And this little tiny slice, it's less than 0.2% of even of the Middle East. So it's minuscule on this planet. He wants to give them that little slice of land. And he wants it to be safe for them. What's the first thing he has to do? Remove religion. If you don't remove religion, it isn't safe. So he was that close to being right, and yet he missed it. And he's a smart man.
Can't win them all. I don't know that we'll ever get a Bill Maher. They would have to give up too much, walk away from what they think is too much to gain everything to be covenant.
I was once a billionaire. I had what you would consider really it all. I mean, and not just a transient billionaire, but I had skill sets. I not only was a founding entrepreneur of the companies that I ran, but I airplane pilot, out to the sense of single type-rated single pilot in jets, and captain of mastery of large boats and yachts, and had all manner of skills and wide variety of sports, and was reasonably articulate. And I had my own syndicated radio show, and I had some accomplishments. I had homes all around the country. I was an architect and a contractor in building them, and had some skills. I gave it all up for where we are. Mm-hmm. And you know how much I lost and how much regret that I gave all that up?
Well, you didn't lose anything. I don't think
I didn't lose anything. I was far more political than Bill Maher. I was religious. I gave it all up. And it was like giving up the most toxic, irritating, poisonous thing you could possibly do. I detoxified my soul when I gave them up. Mm-hmm. So what you're giving up is a burden. It's like taking the scales from your eyes and removing them. It's like taking the brain where none of the synapses were firing correctly, and all of a sudden, whoa, that's amazing. So what you're giving up is worthless. Politics, he knows it's worthless. Religion is worthless. Man's perceptions are worthless. You give up nothing, and you gain everything. Now, you will give up one thing that he would probably hold dear: popularity.
Mm-hmm.
God's never been popular. Anything said about him will never be popular. All you have to do is look at my X account, and you will know that for certain.
Right.
Is that you will give up popularity, and you will gain countless enemies. Now, he has a lot of people that take shots at him, but nothing compared to the people that would take shots at him if he were to speak honestly and more openly about the fact that Jesus never existed, and the New Testament is the dumbest book ever, second dumbest book ever written. The Quran's the dumbest book ever written. And Talmud is a joke. if he were to speak honestly about these things, he could change the world because he has the platform to do it. But you have to be a really, really courageous man with character to do it.
I don't think it would change. I think he would lose people so fast that there would be no momentum in him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People would just turn their head and walk away screaming, and it would be over in an instant for him. Honestly.
Yeah, you wonder. But I would agree that you can't do it on mainstream television, and no chance of that because there'd be no advertisers.
Right.
And so there is no cable operator or broadcaster that's going to put up with you without advertisers, and you would lose your advertisers, and that's absolutely certain. And you would lose your ratings, and you would lose your popularity. But there are influencers today with millions of people. Now, the fact is, the most successful influencers are utter scum. I mean, they go from irrelevant to total scum, and the most influential are really horrible people saying terrible things. So you wonder if you really had a man that has the kind of talent to deliver the monologues that he does, that are so beautifully presented visually and audibly, and his timing is impeccable. He's got a great sense of sarcasm and wit. What would happen if he's an older guy? Somebody like that decides, I'm going to dump the politics and religion, and I'm going to spend the last 5 years of my life making a contribution. You always wonder what that would be, or if we're it.
We're it.
But we're it, and there won't be any more. It's just you and me, pal, and Rich here, and
right.
Not too many others. Is it
I'm
really?
sorry, but Leah keeps asking, where is this person that's going to be able to do this, and where is my person that's going to be able to do that? And no, we're it. It would be nice if that person comes along, but at the end of the day, I have to plan and focus and realize that we're it. Let's work with what we got.
Yeah, I was talking with Leah this morning, and when I'm translating Isaiah 57, which is so specific to those who are opposed to us, and I'm realizing that how overwhelmingly Yahweh was in support of what we're doing, because quite literally he's gone all in. He said, "This is my guy. This is his team, and I'm all in with him. That there is no backup plan. There's no alternative.
Right.
This is it." And he's very pleased with the outcome, but he is exceedingly defensive of what we're doing. And so I was talking to her. I said, "I am 70 years old, and in good health, but still 70 years old, and I'm trying to put in between 85 and 90-hour weeks, and you realize, that not humanly possible. You can't keep on doing that." And so I was trying to say, what is the answer? We've got to see this through to the end, but how do we find a moment to recharge where we're not on, so that we can see this to the end? And if it hadn't been for Rich's arrival and your arrival at a year ago at this time, we wouldn't be here now. The wherewithal that's required to convey this message, there wouldn't be enough support to get it done. And so we realized that, okay, God provided a team, so we do have the wherewithal to get it done, but we are also going to have a bit of pacing, because we could literally run ourselves out, and we can't run ourselves out until the end. It's what happened with both Moshe and Dowd. Yeah. Both Moshe and Dowd went too hard, too long, had too much abuse, and both finally gave up. We can't.
Well, that's what happened with me with the second Shabua, June 27. insight that you had a while back. I was like, as soon as you said that, I said, this just became a marathon. I have to purpose, rethink how I do things daily and how much time and effort and everything that I spend on it, so that, you know, I can still cut wood and heat my house, and, you know, and I'm not spending 20 hours a day doing this. You know, it just became a marathon, and we have to pace ourselves. You're absolutely right.
You have to have. For me, there are a couple of things that seem to work. One is private time, where I have a lovely home here, but no one can be at that home, and it needs to be at least a day or two a week where we just, my wife and I, and collectively. We're really good together, but when she is, dealing with all the people online that she's working with to pursue this, and we have all the people come into the house, after a while, she's an introvert, and it gnaws on her, and then she gnaws on me, and that becomes more stressful. So,
yes.
That's part of it. But my source of energy is actually translating and then commenting on what God said. That's an input.
Yeah, that's the happy time.
That's the happy time, but I've realized that without pacing, this is going to be very difficult to do. I'm thrilled to be able to be part of this. Now, I've posted now 2 or 3 shorts from December a year ago.
Right.
I had the old Shattering Myths syndicated radio show headset on with a boom mic, and had my big glasses in, trying to read a side screen. Didn't have a teleprompter. It was just really raw. And we didn't have a rich and switches and multiple cameras and all sorts of fancy lighting and microphones that were being properly calibrated, or any ability to have 2 of us or more in the same presentation. It was really raw. So we've come a long way, but we are going to have to 2 things. One is to pace ourselves to some degree, but also to reemphasize what Yahweh has made real clear. And that is, if you're going to be part of his team, particularly important to him, and be viewed as working with him, and to be part of that inner circle of people that matter, you need to be engaged. And if you're just around the periphery and listening, that's nice, and sharing, that's nice, but you need to be engaged. There's a lot to do, very little time to get it done, we're going to go on with or without you. But if you wanted to be anything more than, okay, so you're one of the people that made it, yeah, good for you. Now, please step out of the way. Because we're going to be doing this together for 1,000. We got 1,000 years to go on this project. And so the encouragement would be, get your act together, make a contribution. I think that's one of the reasons why the realization of what actually transpired in Eden and why God's bringing us back to Eden is one of the most profoundly important insights we've had along this way. And what we learned is that the experience in Eden didn't end because Adam and Chawa took a bite of an apple. No. Or Adam and Eve, if you want to be religious, took a bite of an apple. There was not an initial sin. That's not how it happened. God gave up on man. And God gave up man. You can't even blame woman, because God gave up on Adam before he even conceived Chawa. Yeah. He conceived Chawa as a means to help Adam deal with the separation, because he was leaving it. It didn't work. And the reason it didn't work in the garden is because Adam was conceived to be observant, shamar, closely examine, carefully consider everything around him, because God wants to show off and share the universe that he has created. And so he doesn't want to take somebody around the universe that says, I'd rather be playing my video game. Right. Okay. So you've got to be observant and pay attention to what's going on around you. Second is I want him to work to make a contribution. Well, there was no indication that Adam did either of those two things, that he was ever observant, paying attention to what was going on around him, or that he ever made a contribution to the relationship or the garden, ever, once, never. Those are the first two things. That's why I was so opposed to AI. It's depriving humanity of these two things that God's looking for. When you're talking about observe, you observe because you're processing this information. It's not only closely examining, but carefully considering. And when you substitute AI for it, that's bad. When you substitute a robot for the labor, that's bad. So God wants us to be contributors, to work, and to be aware of what's happening around us. The other thing is that God wanted to be able to trust Adam. And to trust Adam means that he wasn't looking for someone who was perfect. So trust was not being perfect. So this idea that he made one mistake, therefore he was imperfect, therefore he was booted out of the garden, that's not the case. God doesn't want him to be perfect. If God wanted to be perfect, it would be nothing but a bunch of mini-me's and eternity, and that would be boring as hell for God. He wants imperfections. That's why he loves Dode. I mean, Dode personifies imperfections, right?
No flaws in the hair in his head.
Yeah, so he's looking for imperfections because that's what makes us interesting. But what he wants is when we make a mistake, are we capable of admitting it, growing from it, learning from it, and then getting back up? When we fall, can we get back up? When Adam fell and was gobbling down the fruit from the tree of knowledge before its time, rather than stopping it and say, I probably shouldn't be doing that. Let me see if I can do something productive and I'll put this fruit back in the tree. No, he just kept on gobbling it down. In fact, he was hiding in the tree when God came to him. Mm-hmm. And so he proved that he could not be trusted, that if he fell, he was going to stay that way. And the universe is scary out there. God wants to show off the universe that he created. And to do that, he has to be able to trust us. He has to know that if we make a mistake, we'll learn from it. If we stumble and fall, we'll get back up. That we'll listen to him and pay attention to what he has to say, and we'll pay attention to what's happening around us. And that we'll make a contribution such that the net total is greater than either of us would be independent of one another. Not deadbeats, not somebody looking for an entitlement, which means Gen Z is pretty much out of luck. And so when you realize that's what God was looking for, that's why he foreclosed on the garden experience. That's why God was the one who called to the fall of man, and why 6,000 years later we're being invited back with this cast of characters, with his Nakrar, his observant foreigner. It's why he's called that. That's why this individual this role that I'm performing is known as the tree of knowledge, because what God wants to do is equip a remnant of his people in a protective environment. Again, it's going to turn the entire earth into the conditions of Eden, ideal environment for us, where now we have this core group of people who are going to be responsible under Dode, who is under Yahweh, to equip people to do better, to not replicate Adam's mistake.
Yeah.
To have this sense of responsibility and making a contribution and being good listeners, being observant, and most importantly, when we fall, stand back up. When we're in a moment, we're going to start our another iteration of returning to the garden, and one of the contributors is going to be Kirk, who you mentioned earlier in the show. Mm-hmm. Kirk is stricken right now with prostate cancer, and the treatment for that is horrendous. And what he's had to endure it's overwhelming. And yet, every time I'm talking to him, he's laughing.
All right.
He's talking about how he's going to get through this. Be honest and say, this is really tough. What I'm going through at the moment is really, really hard. But then you say, but I'm going to make it through, and he'll figure out a way all the way through to laugh about it. And when I'm talking to him, I'm not trying to be careful that you don't mention the C word, or that you don't talk about all the things that are normally go along with they remove all testosterone from your body. And so, he may need a training bra, but I'll kid with him on it, and he'll take it and he'll just laugh. And so he's a great example of, all right, this is tough, but he got back up
and still wants to contribute.
Yes,
still
he
wants
does.
to be a part of it. Yeah. That's the important part.
Hugely.
Not,
Yeah, in fact,
"Woe
his
is
view
me," and,
is
hey, it's time for people to lift me up or anything. No. Kirk.
his only complaint, besides being tired, is that I want to get this over with so I can contribute back at the same level I was contributing previously.
Love it.
That is what God's looking for. Yeah. So with all of us, that's it. You know, I realize that it is the reason that we were afforded this horrible mother goddess clique that has been so nasty, and that thrives by trying to besmirch my reputation. Hashtagging my name is all they've got going for them. And God's disgusted of them. And in fact, he's actually said, I'm sending them to hell. Directly, unequivocally, is what he said. But without them, you don't have an obstacle that would normally bring people down. You need these challenges and these obstacles and hardships along the way, not only to empathize with God. This is the thing that is so important, that we understand that he has endured a fractured family for 6,000 years.
Yeah.
And so if we're going to understand what he has gone through and try to rectify that, we have to experience it. That's why Hosea was told to marry a religious prostitute. We have to be able to relate to it. That's why Dode's first wife was such a little bitch. McCall. I mean, there was no other way to describe it. She was a devil on with a skirt, and you need that. You know, with Dode's son, Absalom, was absolutely counter to everything that was important.
Yeah, they're not challenges if they're not challenging.
Right.
If you could just step over
the two most vicious people in Moshe's world were his brother and his sister.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to do this job, you have to experience insider revolts, fractured families, to know what God's been up against. And to represent him, you have to be able to endure it and understand it, overcome it. And it's an essential part of this. This is why we were talking about Bill Maher and in the hope that somebody would that really has a gift of gab, who is really funny and wonderful communicator, would take the next step and get it. But as you say, it's unlikely because it requires a level of character and conviction that very few people have. And that's the character and conviction God's looking for if he's going to trust us off of this planet. Mm-hmm. All right, my friend, I think we're probably getting near our time where we're going to move on. So we'll go maybe one more item here on the list and call it a day. I've just had the circle. We're at over at 2 hours here. This is just a post, but I've seen it from 10 different posters where there is this alleged Russian oligarch. It's the very fact that he's living in the West means that he is an anti-Putinite anyway, and I'm always bothered by the term oligarch, because I know that if you look at the only successful democracies in history were both oligarchies, and the moment you get outside of an oligarchy where people, the only people who should be able to vote as to whether or not you go off to war or you spend money are the people that are making a contribution to the society, who has some skin in the game. And when you open it up so that people who don't want to work become the largest group of people, and they can vote to steal money from those who have worked, then you are going to have the kind of debt that the U.S. has, and you're going to implode, and the whole system's going to fail. So I'm not fond of demeaning oligarchs because of the fact that an oligarchy is the only form of representative government that has a chance of prevailing, because they have skin in the game. They're net contributors, and as a contributor, they ought to be able to decide how their contribution is spent. And people that are contributors don't typically want to vote for war because it's their own sons that they send off to war, and they're not usually fond of doing that. So it's a different situation. Anyway, this person they're labeling as an Orthodox has suggested that it's good that the U.S. Stole the Venezuelan oil, because with the Venezuelan oil and the U.S. oil reserves, that collectively it puts the world as the number one source of oil reserves in the world. And what nobody seems to want to factor in here is what the cost of that was. I heard there's one post here that we didn't get to, but it talked about the value of the oil at $57 a barrel, which is the current price. It's going to go to 200 before long. But at $57 a barrel, the price of the oil means that the U.S. confiscated somewhere around 15 to 20 trillion dollars of assets from Venezuela. Piracy is very, very good today, I guess. Anyway, that's what we stole. Was about 15 to 20 trillion dollars. And so this person went on to say, well, if they sell it for this, then it's then it's still an asset that the United States came to acquire that's over 7, 8, 9, 10 trillion dollars, and that's bigger than the entire GDP of Japan. And what they didn't recognize is the U.S. is not selling the oil; we're taking the oil, and what we choose to give to the Venezuelan people for sustenance will be minuscule. But there's always an equation. You see, pirate ships didn't operate for free.
Right.
You had to maintain those ships. You had to have sails. You had to have crews, that sort of thing. You had to have guns and dynamite and not dynamite, but explosives to shoot the projectiles.
Parrots.
They don't operate for free.
Right.
Piracy doesn't operate for. There's a cost, and there's a cost of taking over somebody else's country. You steal somebody's country, there's a cost associated with it. Now, it's not only the cost of occupying that country and running that country that you've now inherited, and now it's your responsibility to maintain and operate all of their wealth extraction devices. And the U.S. doesn't have any ships either, so we have to arrange all of that. But that's not the big cost, and it's not the big cost of having the military surround it and say it's ours now. Don't you come near it. And it's not just the cost of every other nation in Latin America, Central and South America now despises the U.S. and is looking for any way possible to disassociate in every possible way from the United States, and the cost of all of that. The biggest issue is that the biggest investor and the number one relationship between Venezuela and other countries with China.
Yeah.
And far and away. And the Chinese were there because we sanctioned Venezuela and gave them no other choice. And because of that Chinese relationship and the fact that we just cut off China's second largest oil supplier, the consequence, the cost of that is going to be catastrophic. So you didn't pick up 7, 8, 9, 10 trillion dollars worth of oil by pirating it. What you did is you bankrupt your country, because the Chinese are going to, within the year, bankrupt the United States for stealing that. You steal that asset, that's what it's going to cost. The Chinese are in a position to bankrupt the United States, and they will do so. So no one ever bothers to think of what the real cost is. And the real cost here is that America lost its moral legitimacy in the world.
Sure.
We're now thugs. We're thieves. We're
Everybody
pirates.
seems to be okay with it as long as they're getting their cut. Oh, if I can have $2 a gallon gasoline to go back and forth to work, then I'm okay with it, right?
Well, I wouldn't use the term everybody is okay with it. I posted the world's response to it. There were 3 countries. One, of course, that was bribed in Argentina, that were favorable. And every other country was overwhelmingly negative, saying this is illegal. This is thievery. This is piracy. This is thuggery. This is kidnapping. This is a horrible thing the United States did. And the United States can't be trusted anymore. It's lost all moral standing in the world, and it's what little it had left of reserve currency status through the sanctity of the dollar destroyed. So the consequence of Trump being a thug in this case is catastrophic. It's going to bankrupt the country morally, and that's the way that the overwhelming preponderance of the world has looked at it. Even the countries that are closely allied with the United States, none of them would say a positive thing about it. They said, "Oh, we're pretty concerned about this. Maybe we need to learn more about it before we say anything." But it's catastrophic what we did to ourselves, and the cost to America of doing this thing will be overwhelming. Now, if you look at America, of course, the Democrats are going to say, bad Trump just because it's bad Trump. They hate Trump. Right. And the MAGAs are going to say, yay, Trump, just because they're crazed. It's being a MAGA today is worse than being religious. No evidence and reason matters, no morality. It's just all, he's our God. The people in between, which would be the swing vote for any election, know what he did was wrong. And whether or not there's some of those that say, well, it's going to bring down gas prices, but it won't bring down gas prices. By the way, it's going to increase gas price, increase everything. We isolated ourselves from the world in morality. I would want to share one other thing that is something I learned. I always suspected, I just didn't have the proof. You know how we're telling ourselves that publicly that our inflation rate's 3 to 4%.
Right.
And you go to the market and you're paying twice as much for groceries than you did a year ago, or 50% more for groceries than you did a year ago. And that everything is prohibitively more expensive. I spent $150,000 for gear that makes these programs go. And I look at the cost of individual components. Like right now, the primary camera is a Canon commercial grade professional video cam. That same camera is now twice what I paid for it a year ago.
Yeah.
And what we found here is that the reason the CPI is only, Consumer Price Index, is only showing a 4% year-to-year inflation rate is that the government is gaming the system. What they're doing is saying, all right, so steak has gone up and it's double what it used to be. But people have gone to ground round since they can't afford steak anymore. So we'll price the index based upon ground round because that's what they're eating. Okay, so the car is 50% more than it was previously. But the car has some features that it didn't have previously. So what we're going to do is to say the increase in price of that car has nothing to do with inflation. It has all to do with the fact that the car has some new features.
More value, yeah.
So they have recalibrated everything to come up with an excuse to ignore the difference in price then and now by saying it's not the same commodity. So we're just going to simply ignore that or attribute it to a different column. So that's why inflation is probably in the 15 to 18%.
What's the price of silver?
Well, yeah, just look at the price of gold? Silver.
Yeah.
Now you look at silver and gold. Most of my savings are in gold, and have been for a while. But they have not gone up in value. No. Yeah, I know that gold's what $44,200 or more an ounce, and that's double of what it was a couple of years ago. And you say, well, it's really gone up in value. No, it hasn't changed at all. The dollar has gone down in value, and it's being priced in dollars, and so the dollar has lost value. And what you're measuring is the lost value of the dollar. So it's a great example of this inflation, which is a function not of prices going up, but of the value of the dollar going down. It's the number one way that the government confiscates your money. And so the way that the government is going to try to work its way through default, which is where America is now, because we can find no one to buy our bonds, is that it will inflate the currency, creating more currency through quantitative easing, and to do so at a rate along with other smoke and mirrors such that you don't notice, particularly with the faulty reporting on the CPI, that all they have done is make your savings worthless.
Yes.
And so if you borrowed $40 trillion at money that was at a certain value in these past 4 years, and you inflate the money supply such that when those T-bills come due, you're paying them back with dollars that are worth half of what they were, then you've resolved half of your debt.
But it takes.
But who have you resolved? What you've done is you've destroyed the savings and all of the work of your own citizens.
Mm-hmm.
So you've robbed your own citizens to cause your debt to be resolved with money being paid back with money that doesn't have any value. But while you're doing it, of course, you're adding to the debt that you will have to run the same scheme. And very soon people lose their confidence in it. They recognize what's happening. You get hyperinflation. And once you get hyperinflation, it goes viral, spirals out of control. And then the only answer to that is a reset. And the reset always causes the previous currency to be viewed as worthless. So your savings is now worthless. Yeah. And you go to a new denomination of currency, and this one will be an electronic controllable currency in this reset, so that you only get money if you swear allegiance to the devil. And you only get to spend that money no matter what you've made if you swear allegiance to the devil. So that's where we are. And
pro tip, kids, contracts don't work either. Anything denominated in dollars, those contracts are done.
Are done. Everything falls apart. Mm-hmm. There's nothing left to it, and it's all because America is unwilling to do. In fact, probably couldn't even stand anymore. You'd have to cut Social Security to 10% of its amount. And Social Security is a pyramid scheme. If you think you're paying into your retirement, you're nuts. No, you're paying for the deadbeat that didn't pay. It's all a pyramid scheme. There is no Social Security trust fund. So Social Security would have to be reduced by 90%. Socialized medicine would have to be completely obliterated. And it might as well be, because if you look at what's happening in Canada today, where they have socialized medicine, it's great. You just can't get treated.
Right.
So you don't have to pay anything. You just can't. You can't get any treatment. Right. And same thing in Europe. You don't pay anything, but you just don't get any treatment. And you'd have to eliminate that, because now it's really all nothing but fraud. You'd have to essentially eliminate it, and you would have to eliminate welfare in all of its various forms, food stamps, and the manner of all manner of those kinds of things, and simply provide tangible help. You have kitchens that offer food for people to eat. You have housing that is got a roof and warmth and beds and toilets and that sort of thing, but you don't give people money. You give them a place to sleep. You don't give them food stamps. You give them something to eat. You don't give them free health care. You mend broken arms, and you provide antibiotics for disease control. But you don't. If you're obese and you need a quadruple heart bypass, I'm sorry, you're going to die. Mm-hmm. And all of those things would have to happen. You'd have to eliminate the U.S. military. And if you eliminated all those things and then had a fair taxation, it'd probably have to be a VAT and eliminate the income tax, and a fair way of collecting money, you still couldn't pay off the debt. Even if you did all those things, you still can't pay it off.
Yeah.
So that's how far we're gone, and we're adding $2 trillion a year to the deficit. And if they were to actually try to sell our debt, as opposed to create the illusion of it through quantitative easing and devaluing the currency, then we'd be paying 15-20% on our T-bills, and we'd be adding $6 trillion a year to the debt. That's how far out of control we are. And we're talking about invading countries and using our military and going to war when we can't afford it. And the military is not even the number one expenditure anymore. It's service of the debt. So that's what you're up against. And what Iowa is offering you is a way out. And it's the only way out. And if you want to find about that way out, I would encourage you to go to yadayah.com and start reading. Start reading. Yeah, just start with this book and go from this one right to the end. If you read 3 hours a night, then over the next year, 3 hours a night, every night, over the next year, you could make your way through most of the books once. And most of us have been through them 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Yeah.
I suggest just start forming the relationship with Yahweh. Just start reading and everything else will take care of itself.
I would agree. Well, Kevin, thank you. Well, I guess I'm going to see you here in about an hour or so as we go back and we do our Return to the Garden Part 2. That's going to be an interesting series because where it ends up is just astonishing. I've never seen anything like it. I've been doing this for now 24 years. I have never seen anything like what we're going to witness in God's presentation in Yeshaya 56 and 57, and how sophisticated and elegant it is to describe the fix that a number of people have put themselves in, pursuant to the role that we're carrying out on behalf of Yahweh and His beloved Son, Adod. So, thank you, Rich, for bringing up the show, and Kevin for doing this. Always love the vlog on the vlog. Hopefully next time we'll be a little less verbose and we'll get through more topics. But I think we pretty much nailed the number one topic today, which is why we went into Venezuela and what the overall consequence is for the United States vis-a-vis its debt, the petrodollar, and the consequence of doing what we did in terms of China's retaliation and how all that's going to play out over the next year. That's the message we wanted to deliver today, and I think we did a pretty decent job of conveying that.
Yep. We'll see everybody in a little bit.